From tired to thriving, rethinking thyroid support. Why thyroid medication alone isn't enough for many women. This is Beyond the Prescription, episode 18. So, are you still feeling awful even though your thyroid tests are normal? You're not alone. What if I told you that thyroxine or levothyroxine, which is the standard treatment, isn't the magic bullet it's made out to be? If you've ever felt tired, foggy, heavy, or emotionally flat despite being medicated, this episode is for you. Welcome to Beyond the Prescription. I'm Dr. Alison Grimston, private GP, functional medicine doctor, and head of women's health at Dr. Finley's private practice. Each week, I help smart, health-aware women uncover why they still feel off, even when their labs say they're fine. Today's episode tackles one of the most common frustrations I hear from patients. Why do I still feel awful on levothyroxine? We'll explore why T4 only treatment isn't always effective, the critical role of T3, NDT and custom blended options, and I'll explain what NDT is as well, how to use full thyroid panels to guide your decisions, and why functional monitoring and personalization makes all the difference. By the end, you'll be equipped to ask smarter questions, request better testing, and consider treatment options that work for your body, not just the textbook. Levothyroxine, or T4, is the most commonly prescribed thyroid medication. It's the go-to for NHS care and private GPs alike, and for some women it works beautifully. But for many others, and perhaps for you, it simply doesn't deliver. Let's talk about the reality behind T4 therapy. T4 is a prohormone, a storage form of thyroid hormone. It's not very biologically active on its own, and it needs to be converted into T3, the active hormone your cells actually use. Your body has to convert it into T3, the active form that your cells use for metabolism, mood regulation, menstrual cycle control, cognitive clarity, gut motility, hair growth, skin renewal, body temperature, and so much more. So if your conversion is poor, you can have normal TSH, even normal T4, and still feel flat, tired, puffy, and foggy. So some of those symptoms of poor T4 to T3 conversion include persistent fatigue, brain fog, feeling cold all the time, constipation, depression or low moods, unexplained weight gain, and more. Have you ever been told your labs are normal but still feel tired and foggy? Do type yes in the chat if that's you. Women with low iron or under eating, especially not eating enough protein or not absorbing enough protein, are also at risk, yet this is rarely screened. So how does T4 to T3 conversion work? T4 is converted into T3 primarily in the liver and the gut through an enzyme called 5' deiodinase. Let's talk biochemistry for a moment. That conversion relies on that enzyme, which is sensitive to inflammation, low selenium or zinc, chronic stress, liver or gut dysfunction, high cortisol, estrogen dominance, and in autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, conversion is often impaired from the outset just by that. So this process of T4 and T3 to T3 conversion requires several cofactors. Selenium, which is found in Brazil nuts, eggs and fish, zinc, which is crucial for thyroid receptor sensitivity, iron, needed for hormone production and conversion, magnesium and B12 for methylation and energy metabolism, but also iodine as well. Any deficiency here slows down that conversion process. So yes, you can really improve your T4 to T3 conversion using supplementation and nutritional and lifestyle interventions, and that's what I generally recommend people do. So what blocks T4 to T3 conversion? Let's look at some common blockers that I see in clinic. Let's look at chronic stress and cortisol dysregulation. High cortisol from long-term stress inhibits the conversion enzyme. It also pushes T4 towards reverse T3 in an inactive form that binds to receptors but doesn't activate them. It's like putting the wrong key in the lock. One sign that this might be affecting you might be fatigue that worsens with activity, or poor sleep, or emotional reactivity. Secondly, let's look at low-grade inflammation. Inflammation from leaky gut, infections, mold, or immune triggers downregulates conversion. So even if you're on T4, the body deprioritizes metabolic function when in survival mode. So clinical signs of this would be persistent puffiness, fluid retention, sore joints, food intolerances. Thirdly, let's look at liver or gut dysfunction. Up to 20% of T4 to T3 conversion happens in the gut via bacterial enzymes. Yes, you heard it right. The bacteria produce the enzymes for this conversion. So your microbiome balance is crucial. So if you have SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or other forms of dysbiosis, or constipation or liver stagnation, conversion suffers. Clinical signs of this could include bloating, sluggish digestion, history of antibiotic use, or gallbladder issues. Fourthly, let's look at nutrient deficiencies. Suboptimal ferritin, often less than 50, or low selenium or zinc is really common, especially in menstruating or perimenopausal women. When was the last time you had your iron, zinc, or selenium checked? Not just a full blood count. Probably not often. And in fact, it's quite difficult for us to measure selenium. Standard blood tests can, but only if you ask for it or if the practitioner has specifically thought of that. So now let's look at conventional versus functional ranges. Conventional normal ranges are designed to catch disease, not dysfunction. Your TSH could be 3.9 and still be called normal in allopathic medical terms, but many women feel best when the TSH is between 0.7 and 2.5. And the free T3 is in the mid to the upper range, and the reverse T3 is low to normal. So if T4 is the ingredients and T3 is the finished meal, then you can't thrive on just a pantry full of supplies. You need the kitchen, the enzymes, the cofactors, and a calm environment to actually make the meal. So if you're taking T4 and you're still feeling cold all the time, mentally foggy, heavy and bloated, depressed or flat, struggling with constipation or dry skin or dry hair, it's not in your head. It may not even be in your thyroid gland. It could be in your conversion system. This is the part where standard care often fails because it's based on TSH and T4 only. Does this sound familiar? Have you had that experience where your labs are fine but you feel anything but? Do let me know. In a moment, we're going to talk about what you can do, the role of T3 supplementation, NDT, and tailored combinations when T4 just isn't cutting it. I'd like you to take a deep breath and set in for our next point. Learning to use breath work to help manage your stress is crucial for your thyroid management and any hormone balance. So it's a great practice to use regularly. So the role of T3, natural desiccated thyroid, and combination therapies. So if T4 on its own doesn't always work, the next question is, what does a more complete thyroid treatment look like? Well, it could be just T4 and supplementation and lifestyle change, as I have mentioned, but I've talked about those in previous Beyond the Prescription episodes. So today we're going to explore the roles of T3 therapy, natural desiccated thyroid or NDT, and compounded combination options, and how they're helping women to feel human again. So T3 or triiodothyronine is the biologically active thyroid hormone. It's what your cells actually use to activate metabolism, fuel your mitochondria, regulate ovulation and progesterone production, support cognition, serotonin activity, and temperature regulation. So you can see how it can have a big effect on your energy levels, your sex hormones and your periods, your brain fog and depression and feeling cold. T4 itself is just a precursor. If you're not converting it efficiently, as we covered, then you are effectively running on empty despite your TSH or T4 looking normal. Liothyronine, which is synthetic T3, can be added to boost sluggish energy, improve mood and clarity, support weight regulation, alleviate PMS and low libido, especially in perimenopause. And the result, T3 can rapidly shift your energy, your mood, and your cognitive clarity when it's used appropriately. But T3 has a short half-life. It peaks quickly. So many women do best when it's dosed twice daily and it's introduced gently, so 5 micrograms to start with, and it's monitored, and you're monitored for signs like palpitations or anxiety, which can be transient, but there if you're over medicated. Now let's look at natural desiccated thyroid. You can see why we abbreviate it to NDT. NDT is derived from porcine thyroid glands, so pigs, and so it's not suitable for vegetarians and vegans. It contains all of the hormones and things that are in a pig's thyroid gland, so T4, T3, with traces of T1 and T2 and calcitonin. Examples of this include ARMA thyroid, WP thyroid, ERFA or ERFA, thyroid S, compounded NDT, and nature thyroid. So I've used ARMA thyroid and nature thyroid and ERFA in the past myself. So why does it work for many women? It provides a natural balance of hormones. It includes more than just T4 and T3, which can be helpful in subtle ways. And it's often better tolerated in autoimmune patients than expected when started slowly and paired with gut and liver support. But we do have to be careful. There's a theoretical risk of increased autoimmunity because of it being pig gland, but in actual fact, in studies, they haven't shown any increase in autoimmunity. Some women do brilliantly on it, especially when labs don't reflect how they feel. However, some patients don't tolerate NDT due to fillers or reaction to porcine proteins. They're not always consistent in their formulation, so there may be batch variability, not really the stringent criteria that we look for in pharmacology. And it's not NHS prescribable, of course, otherwise everybody would be using it. It's only T4 that we can prescribe in the NHS. So it needs private or compounded access. And I'd just like to raise a little bit of a caution with NDT. The T3 to T4 ratio, when it's from pigs, it contains a higher ratio of T3 to T4 than what the human thyroid naturally produces. The human thyroid typically produces T4 to T3 at a ratio of roughly 14 to 1 to 16 to 1. So we're not producing a lot of T3. But NDT delivers a ratio closer to 4 to 1, meaning it can oversupply T3. So you don't want to be using NDT if you're already converting to T3 effectively. So very important if your own conversion isn't actually impaired at all. This in turn can lead to hyperstimulation, leading to anxiety, heart palpitations, insomnia, or irritability, and an increased risk in those with cardiovascular vulnerabilities, especially in older adults. That's why NDT is not generally recommended in women over 70, or at least it must be used with extreme caution and careful monitoring. For some, a lower dose of NDT plus thyroid combination or a customized compounded blend offers the benefits of both worlds with fewer risks. So let's come to those compounded T4 to T3 blends. Some women do best with customized ratios such as 80 to 20 T4 to T3 or 70 to 30 or more tailored depending on the response. Compounding meds allows microdosing, so we can use tiny amounts. It allows us to use slow release forms of T3, and we can avoid fillers such as lactose and maize starch, which some women are sensitive to. This is especially useful when a patient is very sensitive to T3 spikes because of that short half-life, or when a patient reacts to standard tablet ingredients like those fillers, or when they need micro adjustments or need a transition from levothyroxine to a gentler blend. So again, if we're looking at that baking analogy, think of T4 as the raw ingredients in your kitchen. If your conversion systems are working, you'll bake a delicious loaf of T3. But if your oven's broken because of liver, gut, stress, or nutrient issues, you'll just have raw flour sitting there, useless and very messy. T3 is the finished product, the thing your body actually needs to function. And that's why many women feel dramatically different, lighter, clearer, more energized within weeks of adjusting their dose or blend. So who benefits most from T3 or NDT? Women with low free T3 despite adequate T4, so that shows you how important the right testing is. Patients with a high reverse T3, which is seen in stress, inflammation and illness. Those with Hashimoto's and conversion resistance. Women in perimenopause or menopause with shifting estrogen and testosterone levels. And women with a history of dieting, over-exercising, low ferritin or trauma. Have you ever asked your doctor about T3 or been told it's too risky without discussing your symptoms? Drop T3 in the comments if this is new to you. Or if and let me know. So some more safety notes about T3. It must be titrated slowly and monitored for heart rate, anxiety and sleep patterns. Because of this short half-life and initial spike when you're using it. And not everyone needs it. It's not a panacea, whatever the publicity seems to show. You don't walk into your functional medicine doctor and say, I want some T3. It needs testing to find out if you do. But for the right person, it can be the key to unlocking energy, mood, and metabolism again. Functional medicine is not about throwing more hormones at the problem. It's about supporting the system to use the hormones better. Another note about that reverse T3, which we haven't really looked at properly yet. Reverse T3 is often elevated during crash dieting, caloric restriction, or prolonged undereating, especially when combined with stress or over-exercise. This is a protective survival response by the body. It's also, we find it raised in people with chronic illness, chronic fatigue, chronic viral infections or bacterial infections, because the body is being told to slow down for that recovery to take place. So why does reverse T3 increase during crash dieting? When your body perceives starvation or extreme stress, it reduces the T4 to T3 conversion, and it diverts more T4 towards reverse T3, the mirror image, and that is inactive. And that then suppresses metabolism to conserve energy because it's perceiving that there's a famine going on. It's an evolutionary mechanism. Your body thinks food is scarce, so it slows you down to preserve resources. And this is why people observe when they do severe dieting that their metabolic rate reduces. So the clinical implications are that a high reverse T3 can block the action of T3 by occupying those thyroid receptors without activating them. And patients with high reverse T3 often feel sluggish despite normal labs, cold, mentally dull, low in mood, and frustrated by a lack of weight loss despite extreme effort. I often see this in women doing low carb, low calorie diets, those with hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is when your periods stop due to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal thyroid axis. And that can be, for example, in cases like anorexia. Postpartum women under sleep deprivation and metabolic strain will often have this happen. And anyone with a history of yo-yo dieting or overtraining, so over-exercise, is another cause of hypothalamic amenorrhea. So for a functional approach, we want to address your nutritional adequacy, restore safe calorie intake, reduce exercise intensity, support cortisol regulation, and replete nutrient cofactors like selenium, iron, and B12. Have you heard of NDT or combination therapy before? What's your experience been? Do let me know. I'd just like to remind you that NHS GPs are unable to prescribe T3 or NDT, but that doesn't mean you can't explore compounding through private care. Next, I'll show you how to actually test for these imbalances and how to know if your current medication is truly working for your body. I'll just grab a drink of water. So testing and personalized approaches. So by now you are